Today on the podcast, I have a special guest. His name is Mr. Shaun Donnelly, and he's the CEO of the Lingerie Fighting Championships. How are you doing, Shaun?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
And Donnelly is your second name. Is there any Irish connections in there?
Yeah, my dad is Irish, or my dad was Irish. My son's name is Liam Donnelly, so we've kept the Irish names alive.
Very Irish. Was it what part of Ireland was he from?
He was from Belfast.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to talk about your current product that you have now. But before you got into the Lingerie Fighting Championships, what kind of stuff were you doing? What's your background like?
Well, my background is in journalism, advertising, and then television. I owned an ad agency for many years, and then got to just all of a sudden decided I was going to do a TV series, which usually doesn't work. In this case, it did. I've been doing it ever since, and then had this idea for Lingerie Fighting Championships, and I've been doing that for a number of years now.
It formed in, was it 2013?
Yeah, 2013, and then we ended up going public in 2015, and so yeah, 8 years now we've been doing LFC.
Yeah, and in terms of you coming up with the idea and forming the company, what were the steps involved in that? Like, do you have a big team around you?
No, it was just me. I was actually producing a weekly MMA series for an online network now defunct called Codecast.
Okay.
And in doing that show, of course, I was watching a lot of MMA, a lot of women's MMA, and I was watching a fight in Calgary, Canada, and it was kind of sexy, kind of it was attractive women, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. It took 10 minutes to resuscitate. Kim Couture actually was beaten that night, and I just thought, watching that, it was like, oh, I don't want to watch women get hurt. I wish someone could create a MMA league where the rules protect the girls, but and they're attractive, and we don't end with 10 minutes of trying to bring someone back to life in the center of the ring.
In terms of that then, Shaun, what's the difference in rules, say, between your fighting and a normal MMA fight?
We have a number of rules that we've put in place to, now some of it was done just because we knew we wanted to cast a certain type of person. And, we wanted to cast, to kind of lean more towards the models rather than veteran fighters. And we realized immediately we weren't going to be able to cast lingerie models if their faces are going to get messed up, because it's going to cost them too much money. They can't then go to a modeling gig. So we put in a rule that there are no stand-up strikes to the face. Our product is more entertainment based. The audience wants to watch beautiful women rolling around in lingerie, so the girls kind of are aware of that, and so if you have someone in a vulnerable position, you might be able to tap them that way, but you're not trying to kill them, and that's really the difference between our product and other MMA.
I suppose when you look at sport now and you look at even professional wrestling and what the NFL have been through with concussion protocols and injuries to sports athletes, I suppose what you're doing is beneficial to their long-term health, as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I started this, the last thing I want is people getting hurt. Do people still sometimes get hurt? Of course. I mean, we've had, some broken noses, because even with a no stand-up strike, it's still, it's two people fighting. Things can happen. But for the most part, we've been very fortunate. What often happens is when there are injuries, it's just the adrenaline. It's, you train one way, and then all of a sudden you get in front of a big crowd, and they're excited. You get excited, and you maybe go a little harder than you're meant to, and that's typically when the injuries have happened.
Yeah. In terms of the way, I was looking at a podcast of you there the other day, and it's very interesting the way that you pay your fighters based on pay-per-views. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, paying the fighters has always been really important to me. There are other lingerie sports leagues that don't pay their athletes, and to me that's unacceptable. So what we do is we pay considering our budgets, we pay a fairly generous performance fee. That's a guaranteed fee, win or lose. They make that money. And then recently we launched our own pay-per-view platform. So we decided to cut the fighters and coaches and everyone who makes the show what it is, cut them in and give them them 30% of any pay-per-view that their fans buy. So when someone orders our pay-per-view, they can't continue until they select someone to receive the 30%.
Very good.
That, has been very popular with the fighters, and I think appreciated.
Yeah. In terms of broadcasts in the state, then, what way are you broadcasting at the moment?
Well, we do a number of things. Like I said, we just launched our own pay-per-view platform, so that is specifically to our site. Then after the fact, sometimes we go live broadcast right to in demand. Sometimes we go after the fact to in demand. So kind of the model we've set up recently is to have live pay-per-view on our site, exclusive to our fans. And then put it on in demand, so it's on cable and satellite, a month, 2 months later.
Yeah, and you've recently launched over in Europe as well.
Yeah, we just had signed a deal with Film on TV, so they're going to be carrying the product on their platform, which has a wide reach in Europe. We also did a deal with Klaxon for Latin-speaking countries, and of course, with In Demand, we're already on about 2,000 cable and satellite systems throughout North America. So we're gradually getting to the point we want, where pretty much anyone can find us.
And most of your live shows have been done in the States, yeah. But I was reading as well that you had a show over here in Europe, in Bratislava.
Yeah, that was an amazing show.
Yeah.
Had a blast in Slovakia. We would love to. We were actually in talks to do a show in Germany right when the pandemic hit. So of course those got tabled immediately. But we would love to come back to Europe. Everyone who came had such a fantastic experience in Slovakia that we would love to do it again.
And obviously, with you launching the platform in Europe, the interest is there from European people for live shows as well.
Yeah, I mean, in Slovakia, the audience, it was huge. That was one of our best attended events ever was Bratislava. So they're definitely, and I think, Europe doesn't have a real history with what, our type of entertainment. So we weren't sure how it would be received, but it was, immediately the first two girls that went out, the fans just got into it, and it was amazing.
Yeah, Europe is pretty dynamic. Like, there's probably some countries that would find it maybe entertaining, and then there's some countries maybe that wouldn't find it entertaining or wouldn't find it interesting. But it's all about just trying the markets, I suppose.
You're right. And, I think even when we first started, because we kind of bridged that sort of wrestling and MMA, we weren't really sure how the MMA fans would respond. So I thought, geez, they're not going to it's not bloody enough for them. It's not brutal enough for them. And what we found happens is, the first couple, first fight goes on, and the real hardcore MMA fans, they kind of get it pretty quick, and then they're just into it. And it's just, okay, I'm not going to see anyone get killed tonight, too bad. But, this is still pretty cool. They're going to send out 14 more girls in lingerie. I can get behind that.
The MMA crowd, I think, used to have a kind of a problem with the WWE back in the day, like in America. But then when they see people like Lesnar crossing over, and even I know CM Punk didn't work out in that regard as well, but I think those little crossovers that have happened have helped kind of bridge the sport together, the two sports.
It has, and that's really what LFC is trying to do as well, is kind of try to be a hybrid between those two things. We don't have the scripted results that you typically would have in pro wrestling, but we certainly have rules that are similar to wrestling. And you'll see inside a single round, you'll see a pro wrestling move and an MMA move, both executed, right back to back. So it's, it's fun. It's a different product. You have to kind of go in with an open mind. And what we find is the audience does that.
Yeah. And how do you source the talent?
That's getting easier and easier. It used to be a little tricky, because just our name, people kind of get the wrong sense about us sometimes. But what I find happens is the longer you do something and the more people you do it with, all of a sudden they start, our fighters tell, we get all kinds of referrals from fighters. Someone will contact us, I'm a friend of Shea Mazzato. She says this is really cool. So it's gotten really easy to cast now. In the first few years, it was definitely a lot more challenging than it is now.
Yeah. And speaking of challenges then, you were gaining a lot of momentum in the lead up to the pandemic. How far has that set the business back? Or does it give you time to reflect and come up with new ideas?
In a lot of ways, I hate to say that it's been a benefit to us, but the pandemic kind of, if you look at our pay-per-view numbers and our online numbers, our membership numbers, they've skyrocketed during COVID. A captive audience that were kind of starving for entertainment. They, a lot of our stuff was new to them, so it really wasn't. It didn't hurt us the way people I think thought it might. Certainly we had to cancel a lot of events, but we still ended up having one of our biggest events ever at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in August, right in the middle of the pandemic. We've kept active. We've shot 2 more seasons of our reality series, as well as done another calendar. We kept quite busy during the pandemic, and we did it as safely as possible. But the fans a lot of fans that I think might not have found us otherwise found us as a result of the pandemic.
And how was that biker rally? Because I had Billy Gray from Fozzy, Chris Jericho's band, on the podcast.
Yeah.
About a couple of months ago, and he was saying that it was kind of blown out of proportion. And although a lot of the blame went towards Fozzy for that because it's Chris Jericho and he's kind of the biggest guy there and he's an easy target, but was that event just blown out of proportion as it seems it was?
I think so, because everyone assumed that it was going to be this super spreader event was the term they were using, and then afterwards they tried. There was one article that tried to make the link, but there was no link to make. If you look at the numbers actually in Sturgis County, the increase in COVID cases was negligible. I think the organizers did it safe. As LFC, we took extra precautions to make sure our people were going to be safe. I know the bands took, I'm sure Fozzy as well. And we have a bit of a connection to Fozzy. One of our fighters actually comes out to one of their songs.
Oh, cool.
But I know the bands were really strict with the venue in how things would be done. Anytime anytime I was backstage, we had to mask up and they were following social distancing and all that. So it was really well done. Buffalo Chip handled things very well, I thought.
Yeah. And in terms of going forward then, are you starting to book in some shows, or what way is it looking in the States? Because I think every state has kind of different rules, haven't they, at the moment? So it's probably hard to organize shows.
It is, and some of the states like Nevada, where we're based, the challenge was that the rules kept changing. But like you said, things seem to be opening up. We're starting to get contacted by a lot more venues and promoters now, looking to book us. We just got contacted to do a show in Orlando. We're hoping to return to Sturgis. We've got another show in Vegas, and then I want to do 3 shows in Mexico on the Halloween weekend. So that's something
Nice.
I'm working right now to put together.
Yeah. In terms of the media, then, I'll give you an example. Okay, I was promoting this show earlier, and I put a 30-second clip on TikTok, and they took it down because it was sexual content. Now I took like a 30-second clip off one of your YouTube videos, but I appealed it anyway, and they turned it over. But do you get much bad publicity because of what the girls are wearing at all online or in person about the event?
We do sometimes. I mean, I think what we're finding right now is social media is getting a little more prudish than it used to be.
Yeah.
I'm finding more and more, like, we're no longer monetized on our YouTube channel, which doesn't really matter to me because we always use commercial music, so we've never been monetized to us anyway. But it used to be we could get away with all this stuff. Now all of a sudden I'm getting copyrights or community standard strikes.
Yeah.
And I tell them, like, listen, this is an excerpt from a event that aired on 2000 cable systems with a PG rating or a 14V for violence, not for sex, not for nudity. There is no sex or nudity. And we used to win those appeals. Now they don't even listen to them. It's just, we're not allowed to put up thumbnails. It's got to be right from the video. So things are really changing. As for the media has always been fairly supportive of us. We've had some weird stuff, especially the UK media has been really strange to us. In that they cover us a lot. One of them said, about 3 years ago, they said I was contributing to the downfall of civilization.
It's pretty harsh.
It is harsh, but at the same time, they post like 20 of our photos and then contact me to see if I have more photos that they can share to help us, I guess, ruin civilization. So yeah, I always find it funny that they pretend they feel one way when in actual fact they're just happy to share the photos. And
They're just happy to put those photos up there of beautiful women and get click, click, click. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah, and it's like, oh, isn't this awful? Here's another photo. Isn't this one terrible? Oh my God, look at this one. It's even worse. And we all know what they're doing, and
there's a phrase that all publicity is good publicity, and I actually believe in that.
Yeah, it's I think often been the case for us. But having said that, I mean, other than being told we were contributing to the downfall of civilization, most press we've gotten has been fairly positive.
Yeah, and in terms of demographics, then across the board, we say, what kind of people are watching this, and from age ranges and genders and stuff like that?
Well, we keep track of all that through, of course, Facebook analytics, and In Demand keeps track of our audience numbers. And what we find is our audience, of course, is predominantly male when it comes to buying pay-per-views or watching. Where that changes a bit is at the actual live events, where it's more like 60-40, in that we get a lot of women who come to our events, and it's not just coming there with their boyfriend or husband. We'll get a group of women will show up and want to watch the show. So it's kind of funny that we're very male dominated when it comes to video, but in person it becomes a lot more even.
I think the guys go to the show to see the nice women, and then the girls go to the show to see the violence.
And the violence, I think, also the pretty girls and the lingerie. There's a bit of a almost a fashion show aspect to our events. And I've never. That's one thing we've never really pulled is we've never asked them why are you here?
Yeah,
but they cheer and yell and hoot and holler with the rest of them. So we're always happy to have as many women in the audience as possible.
Yeah, and I'd say like something that we're touching on, like that biker rally. I'd say like that was a huge success down there as well, because it's similar. Like over in England, they do have Download Festival usually, and obviously it's not on this year, but they do have WWE NXT as kind of an addition to the festival. Like,
oh yeah.
So I think any addition entertainment to a music festival, I think you're doing well as well. In terms for the future, then, like, what are your plans going forward, and how far do you want to take this?
Well, we want to take this as far as we possibly can, especially because the fighters are just so amazing that that I love working on it. I'm a TV producer. I usually jump from or a filmmaker, from one project. The next year I'm doing another. 2 years later it's a different series. So to have stayed as long as I have with LFC is unique. But I do it because I love the product. I think it's a lot of fun. I love the potential of it. I see where we can take this, and most of all, I love the people that I get to work with doing it, and they're just amazing people.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best for the future, and thanks a million for your time today, Shaun.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah.